The year 2000. America is a vast speedway. People line the streets to witness the greatest drivers on earth in a race from sea to shining sea.
This is a death race.
You finish first, or not at all. Death Race 2000.
Death Race 2000 is a cult classic from the mind of Roger Corman. In a distant dystopian future in the year 2000, well, rather, a future by 1975 standards, considering that future was almost 20 years ago. After the world crash of '79, massive civil unrest and economic ruin occurs. The United States government is restructured into a totalitarian regime under martial law. To pacify the population, the government has created a murderous transcontinental race that has become a form of national entertainment. It was released on April 27, 1975, and starred Sylvester Stallone and David Carradine in the lead roles. Later, this was followed up with a sequel, Death Race 2050, on January 17, 2017.
Citizens of the United Corporations of America, welcome to the Death Race.
Race fans, we are moments away from the starting gun.
Our racers score 10 points for an adult and a whopping 50 points for the senior set.
The year is 2050. In the United Corporations of America, which is plagued by overpopulation and an unemployment rate of 99.993%, the Death Race provides both entertainment and population control. Spanning from old New York to new Los Angeles, it follows very much the same idea as the original. And starred Manu Bennett and Malcolm McDowell. Most of you might remember Bennett as his role in the CW series Arrow as Wilson Slade, aka Deathstroke. Prior to Death Race 2050, which paid more homage to the original, came a sort of remake, simply titled Death Race.
You're familiar with the Death Race. The drivers are convicts and the rules are simple.
It's kill or be killed. I can see the appeal.
Win and get your freedom.
Let's play a little offense. You're out in front. Who are you gonna shoot at? Hold tight. I love this game.
Starring Jason Statham, Tyrese Gibson, and Ian McShane, and it was released August 22, 2008, and had a completely different approach. This remake, as it were, was much more violent and had a massive reimagining of the vehicles, which are armed to the teeth with machine guns, rockets, and tons of armor. This spawned several sequels: Death Race 2, Death Race 3 Inferno, and Death Race Beyond Anarchy. I was sitting home one day trying to figure out what my next project would be, bored to tears with aircraft and such. I decided to try new genres. After seeing some cobbled together cars at my buddy's hobby store for a tabletop battle game called Gaslight, a game based on a Mad Max style world of car combat, that got me intrigued. Then,
Death Race gives anyone the opportunity to become king. Do you think you can handle being king of this mountain?
I'm just here to race.
Got something for you, baby. Gotta love race day.
Death Race Beyond Anarchy.
I saw this, and saw the hero car, and a light bulb went off. I remembered a kit that was built by my daughter who wanted to share some time with me at the bench, and I'd done this SnapTite kit of a new model Camaro. With her blessing, I had my next project, a Death Race Beyond Anarchy inspired Camaro. The thing that was unique about this film, and mind you it was bad, but it was more than just good guy versus bad guy. though in all the versions the main character of Frankenstein has been both villain and hero, though in the hero parts have been more anti-hero. But from a car guy point of view, the long-standing Camaro versus Mustang battle debate. And since I didn't have a Mustang, anyways, let's get it on. This is what I'm starting with, the build as it was originally done in the very first place. I got all the components separated down, and thanks to Brad Lothrop for sparing a couple of his Warhammer guns for this project. Just for reference as to the direction I'm hoping to take this project, the vehicles in these versions were significantly meaner, armed to the teeth, and much nastier looking than the originals, which were quite a bit more cartoony. I played with a few loadout ideas for this build. The multiple rocket launcher on the sides might have been a bit large. I might use a 72nd scale one instead, that would fire solid projectiles versus rockets. Now I know what you're all saying. Hey man, scale. Yeah, I know, all out of scale. But hey, so is a concept. So there. Using a piece of leftover armor from a Warhammer Titan as a small tombstone for the rear protection for the fuel tank was just an idea that I had. It wasn't quite like the reference material. I installed a hood scoop, which was constructed from the remnant of a Hurricane build for the lower scoop, and I fixed in some mesh behind that and secured that to the center of the hood. Here we see that leftover shoulder armor from the Battle Titan being used to make that fuel cell protecting tombstone. Then I started putting together what would be a front crash bar from what I think was an old step of something, I don't know. I've just got way too much crap in my spares, and it's a good way to get rid of some of it. We put more armor added to the front of the hood with some scrap plastic and drilled 2 holes on either side of the fender and finished off with something that I found in my spares. Let's just call them greeblies. Thanks, George Lucas. And a pair of leftover BF-109 bomb racks to serve as mounts for the 2 weapons that will be mounted on the hood. I also had a rocket armor plate from the 262 that went on the roof to mount for the 3rd gun. I've got some wire for miscellaneous piping, not sure what the purpose was intended, but it was sort of on the reference material, and if for absolutely no other reason, just for show. I did some harnesses for the gun platforms and activation cables, and then some more of the brush bar for around the headlights made from screw baits. Here you can see the bar on the headlights with mesh behind it. Also decided the rocket launchers on the sides from the preliminary test fit looked a bit off, so I decided to do away with fog lights and install the nozzles in the openings, which I think looks much better now. I took some fuses cut from some old discarded bomb halves for wing nuts that would hold a tombstone in place on the rear bumper. Also, I used parts of some spare pylons to make mounts for what would become the rear spoiler. I used some old rotor blades from a salvaged Blackhawk chopper to fabricate a spoiler. Also, the top half of a rocket pod from another project was mounted on the other side of the roof for another weapon platform. Still wasn't exactly sure where I was going with that. Here I wasn't happy with the look of the first go at the bars around the headlights. I removed them and gave it another go with a thicker copper wire, and I think they were much improved. Using drywall tape, I fashioned a grate over the right window, a bit of silica plastic as a plate over the rear section. An aircraft section of thicker armor plate on the driver's side. The aim is to protect the driver more than the navigator.
I got it. Frank's out of his car.
What?
He stepped out of his car.
Okay, I see. I need guns.
Yeah, saw it coming up in 50 yards.
What happened?
I don't know. Somebody must have grabbed it.
What you mean somebody grabbed it?
Look, man, I thought it was lit.
What you mean you thought? Man, get the fuck out of my car.
What?
I said get the fuck out of my car!
As in these versions, if your navigator was killed, or you killed him, you just got another one. See here, an air dam fashioned on the lower part of the front bumper made from styrene sheet. Here, I put some miscellaneous detail, not to have the rear window just looking bare and unprotected. I made an ammo feed for the gun on the roof made from stretch sprue and masking tape. The gun was a leftover from a Mitchell build that has now been repurposed. Miscellaneous plumbing for the inside to add volume made from other leftover crap. First, to give some volume to an otherwise empty interior. Secondly, to give that souped up feel. And third, to get more shit out of my spares box. The front windscreen armor is being fabricated from styrene sheet. All the piping inserted in its spot The one big one on the top of the drum is for a 3-part line that goes through the flamethrower. Oh yes, it'll have a flamethrower. Drywall tape for screen, plus some aircraft exhaust just for drama. Also done in a previous step, I used stretch sprue to add some wheel opening trim. Then some armored louvers for the rear window and a hole outside the side armor for the flamethrower line. Then I used some stretch sprue to clean up the edges so that all the scratch building is done. Off the primer once all the edges are caulked with some Voila paint. Now, everything gets a coat of primer. And with everything evened out in one color, you can see the thing take shape and a character starts to develop. As always, my primer of choice is an automotive grade primer, thin with lacquer thin. I also gave a coat of primer on the underside for a complete 360 degree coverage. I also did some interior, but mostly where I've added stuff, and not the entire interior as I was not planning to refinish the entire inside. All the main weapons also got a coat of primer. Also, the line feed for the flamethrower, made from wire with the insulation still in place and Tamiya tape for straps. Being that this was a prison-required car, it's going to look pretty beat up as it was probably found somewhere in the former Island City. I used NATO Black as a chipping color base. After a couple layers of hairspray, a 75% International Orange and 25% Insignia Red color mixture went down. My hairspray of choice is Herbal Essence No. 2 in the pump bottle. I find this easier to use, just pour it into the airbrush, no need to decant and wait for it to degas. It does the same work anyways. I began activating the hairspray with water applied with a brush, and I used various tools and brushes to add some chipping and scratching effects. While that sets up and cures a bit, I airbrush the color mix right over the chrome finish on the wheels and then mist it on a very thin layer of brass, then clear color to tint it, different from the car, and then once dried, I scrubbed it gently with a very stiff brush. I did this to simulate the effect that the original wheels were painted with spray cans and poorly handled, resulting in chipping. Then, Tamiya Tire Black to finish up the scheme. I used a post-it to demark the lines rather than tape. I wanted to get an effect that the darker color was just sprayed on with cans. After all, this version of Death Race, these drivers are all in a prison city, so the finish was made to look uneven on purpose. I even went back in very close and airbrushed the edges. All the finishing paints are done. I also did some chipping on the darker surface with a Prismacolor light grey pencil. To give the effect that the tombstone was just a hunk of metal bolted on, I wanted a heavy rusted effect like it was picked up somewhere as a, yeah, this'll do. So based off in hull red and sponged on various tones of browns, reds and oranges. Then several coats of hairspray was added, and then the original color. Then severely chipped, I had to retouch some areas of the sponge with red color and some black. Then, with a streak in rust and light rust enamels, the surface is blended, and while the surface is still wet, further blended with rust pigments. I might have overdone this step slightly as the original color effect was vastly diminished. After all the masking is removed, you can see the final effect of the tombstone. Taking a break from the body, I go to the undercarriage, a coat of MIG cockpit blue. The only choice for this color was a reference I was using had a blue underside. Using a sponge technique, a dark medium brown was added to begin a worn, dirty look. Then, I painted all the underside metallic parts, such as the exhaust, the control arms, fuel tanks, transmission, and the bottom of the engine. Then, with glazes and more sponge technique, I begin to weather these areas. The wheel wells got painted out in Mission Model's Tire Black. I found that on real vehicles, this was not a true black color. The plastic tended to have a black tone to it, and since this was going to be dirty, I went a bit lighter to start it looking dusty. Then, I started on weathering with oils and enamels to further enhance that dirty appearance that I was going for. Then, the finishing touches on the exhaust with pigments. Soil deposits were also added to some areas of the framework, but I stopped to wait to get a black wash on first, and then I finished that up. Here you can see all the final touches underneath after a wash of AK soil deposits for a dirt buildup in recesses, all done in layers. Then I used airbrush medium as a fixer, brushed that on, and then started dabbing on pigments to do the wheel wells. This ended up being a bit heavy, so I decided with a stiff brush to give it a little scrub to remove some of the buildup to tone it down. I began some oil weathering on the body. I started with some dark red and crimson red to give the base color a stained look. Then, some lemon yellow and yellow ochre for some paint fading. It's not very obvious in pictures, but in person it has a nice bleach look. This certainly wouldn't be a death race car without some symbolism, so what's more symbolic than a skull? Also, you can see another miscellaneous part fixed in place as an ammo box on the roof. The rotors are done using a mixture of oil paints and colored pencils. The rims are all done. You can see some additional chipping was done on the rims, and I also used some oils and pigments to get some brake dust staining. We're getting into the final round of oil weathering as the whole look is starting to come together really well. And here, I do believe that I'm going to be calling this body weathering done, at least for now. I've got the guns all ready to go, well, almost. I've got to finish painting the ammo belt, and then some heat stains on the part that is going to become the flamethrower. All the interior components are painted. I was asked when I posted this on Facebook about a fuel tank behind the driver not being the best location. My answer was, it's a death race, man.
This is a death race.
The clear part that serves as the front and rear windshields were masked off for the wipers wipe, and a layer of old white paint was misted onto it. I wasn't sure how visible it would be in the end. I created spilled fuel stains on the rear quarter, and I did this using MIG fuel and oil stains effect. The rear light lenses are back in. I had intended on dusting them up a bit to match the rest of the scheme. Maybe sometime later I will go back and do just that. A dark wash was applied to bring out the recesses around the doors and the hood and other similar areas. The clear part is installed, and as I suspected, the wiper swipe effect is virtually invisible. I also put back in the front grille and the headlights assembly. The tires were weathered with pigments and put on the rims and then installed onto the undercarriage section. Then, the interior is cemented to the undercarriage assembly as we near the close. Rear view mirrors are back in place after being painted in the same dark color. And the guns got a dark wash as well. It's a little hard to see in this picture, but the muzzle's got a heat stain effect, and I redid the ammo strip. The flamethrower line is attached to the drum that is going to feed the napalm mix. And then the bodies combined back to the undercarriage. The flamethrower line went out through the hole in the side of the armor that I made earlier, and the first weapon is added. This is intended to represent a 30mm cannon. Then the flamethrower is added, and as you can see, the heat stain is a little bit more apparent here. I ran activation lines up through the platform for rockets which were going to be mounted on the roof, and this was done with wire. First rocket is on with the line attached, and then now both. The third gun is added to the roof as a sort of a 50 cal style weapon, and its activation cable is connected along with the ammo feed inside the box. And how about that seam, guys? Yeah, this is the very first time I've noticed it, to be honest. Then, the flamethrower line is attached to complete the weapon's loadout. I know it looks a bit strange, especially with the oversized and out-of-scale weapons, but it is my kind of homage to the original, with a bit of an abstract and somewhat whimsical look, while going for the mean arm-to-the-teeth effect. But, truly guys, this was an actual fun build, and that was really the purpose for this project, to kind of get me back into a mood. So I hope you enjoyed this build. I look forward to seeing you for the next one. Bye for now.